Alright, we are starting chapter 2, and we're going to start with section 2.1, which has to do with trig functions of acute angles. And this ought to be pretty familiar to you because you've done right triangle geometry, and it's just reminding us of the following: that sine A is equal to y over r, or opposite over hypotenuse. And you've had that before, and you're kind of wanting it to do it already. Cosine of A is equal to x over r, which is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tan A is equal to y over x, which is opposite over adjacent. Then you would also have the reciprocals. Cosecant would be hypotenuse over opposite, and Alright, let's do a problem. The problem example would be find sine, cosine, tangent for angles A and B in the triangle. Alright, so here we've got our triangle. This is a right triangle with a right angle at C. Here's B, here's A. This is 25, 24, and 7. So, sine A, this is a pretty easy one, is equal to what? It's, here you look at A, and opposite of A is 7. So, I'll just do that. 7 over the hypotenuse, which is 25. Sine of B, if you're looking at B, opposite over hypotenuse, that's 24 over 25. Cosine of A is equal to, here is A, adjacent, so that's 25 over, oops, messed that up. Cosine A, if you were looking at A, right here, the adjacent is 24 and opposite is, hypotenuse is 25. So we have 24 over 25. Cosine of B, if you're looking at B, which is here, adjacent would be 7 over 25. Okay, and let's do our tan. Tan A is equal to opposite over adjacent, so 7 over 24, and tan B is equal to opposite over adjacent, 24 over 7. Okay, if you notice something here, the sine of A is the same as the cosine of B, and the cosine of A is equal to the sine of B. So that brings us to the next topic, which is called cofunctions. Alright, for any acute angle A, the following is true. Sine of A is equal to the cosine of 90 degrees minus A. Cosine of A is equal to the sine of 90 degrees minus A. And so sine and cosine are cofunctions. Tan and cotan. Tan of A is equal to the cotan of 90 degrees minus A. Cotan A is equal to the tan of 90 degrees minus A. And we could do cosecant and secant as well. Cosecant A is equal to secant of 90 degrees minus A, and secant A is equal to cosecant of 90 degrees minus A. Let's see how this works in a problem. Example: write each function in terms of its cofunction. Alright, so A, cosine of 52 degrees. Well, let's look back up here at cosine, what cosine is equal to. Cosine A is equal to the sine of 90 degrees minus A. So cosine 52 degrees is equal to the sine of 90 degrees minus 52 degrees, which equals sine 38 degrees. Try another one. Tan of 71 degrees. What would that be? Tan of 71 degrees equals cotan of 90 degrees minus 71 degrees, which equals the cotan of 19 degrees. Okay? Alright. Alright, we need to look at the trig values of some special angles, and you're aware of these because you've dealt with them in geometry. Well, let's go ahead and look at them here. These special angles are 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and 60 degrees. Alright. When you have a right triangle that is a 60, 30 degree right triangle, remember that you always had the short side was 1 and the hypotenuse was double that, and the long side was the short side times the square root of 3. Well, if that's the case, we could come up with the trig functions for this. If we had the sine of 30 degrees, remember sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so opposite over hypotenuse, which is equal to 1/2. Okay. Cosine of 30 is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, which is square root of 3 over 2. Tan of 30 is opposite over adjacent, so that would be 1 over the square root of 3, and we always want to rationalize that, so it would be square root of 3 over 3. You could go on and get your 60 degree angles as well, and you could get all the rest of them. These are really important. You need to start kind of memorizing them. There is a table in the book. If you access the textbook, you could get it there, or there is a table on some of the notes that you can click in Math Lab, so you'll want to look there. The 45, 45, 90, same idea. We have 45 and 45, and so we would have 1 1, and this one is the square root of 2. When you have that, then we can do sine of 45 is equal to 1 over the square root of 2, which is square root of 2 over 2. Cosine of 45 is the same thing, and so we have that. And tan of 45 is equal to 1 over 1, which is 1. You are going to see these very, very often, so really start trying to learn all the trig functions, or at least the sine, cosine, and tan of 30, 60, and 90. At this point, you should be able to go in and do your homework for section 2.1, and if you have time after watching this video, that's what I would suggest you do, and on Monday we will pick right back up with section 2.2. Have a great weekend.